Hi, welcome back to our online webinar. I'm Janine Tanner, the Managing Director of Envirosure. We are a leading environmental impairment underwriting manager. We specialize in environmental impairment insurance for dangerous goods in transport, storage, and potential pollutants. We use this online platform to engage with our brokers, do some training with them, and for them to earn their CPD points.
I'm Adele Hartley, the General Manager of Envirosure. In this presentation, we are going to discuss the impacts of side tank claim spillages. Side tank spillages are not spillages that are related to the load of the truck, but rather the vehicle's own fuel tank, which is used to propel the vehicle. Side tank spillages are extremely common, happening almost daily. Often the spillages are quite insignificant and can be cleaned up by either the driver using their own spill kit or the tow company if the impact is not severe. However, as soon as there is impact into the actual environment, you need a specialized cleanup company. Side tank spillages can often be viewed as insignificant. However, in the event of a large loss, hundreds of litres can be released into the environment, where various sensitive ecological factors come into play. Often clients don't have specialised cover for side tank spillages as they view the small extensions included on their HGV policies as significant, where time and time again we've seen the cost of side tank claims escalating well exceeding the limits on these policies. We'll be going through two side tank scenarios which are vastly different but do however highlight the potential exposures. Incident 1 occurred at a truck stop. Whilst the truck was preparing to leave the truck stop, he did a U-turn which ruptured his side tank completely. Envirosure was not informed of the incident immediately. They did contact their HGV insurer as they thought this was going to be a small spill, and they were aware that there was an extension on that policy. The truck was jackknifed in the U-turn process, so the transporter called out their HGV company as they needed assistance with towing the truck, correcting it, and they also then appointed them to clean up the side tank spillage. The tow company attended to the spillage, as often tow companies will. Generally, we have a very good relationship with most of the towing companies where they contact us immediately if this is out of their scope, out of their depth in terms of the contamination. This tow truck contractor, however, decided to continue with the job. The tow company proceeded with the cleanup measures. They excavated the contaminated soil. However, they did not follow correct methodology as they mixed it back with clean soil and closed up the excavation without removing any of the actual contamination. They spread it further. The truck stop owner raised quite a concern about the contamination as the product was leaching back up to the surface and there was very strong odors of diesel contamination. At this point, the broker alerted Envirosure to the potential issue that was raised on site. We sent our team out to establish what had occurred. With this incident, the information was quite vague at this stage, with no parties taking full responsibility for what had transpired. Spilltech got to site to establish the conditions of the contamination. As they started excavating, they just uncovered more and more pollution as the excavation was quite large, mixed in with layers of clean soil. However, the product had just spread. This had vastly changed the type of claim we were dealing with. If we were called out initially, we could have followed the correct protocols, removing the contaminated soil, which would have stopped the spread of any further contamination. However, that wasn't done in this incident. So now we're dealing with up to 5 times the volume of contaminated soil from the original incident. We appointed an external assessor to assess this incident and identify exactly how this claim occurred. As we weren't sure if this was the actions of the tow truck company at this stage, the transporter, or if there was existing contamination at the truck stop. So often you'll see when there is an incident, you might get unscrupulous landowners trying to inflate claims or put in previous damages as part of a new insurance claim. The assessor established that the contamination was in fact as a result of the initial side tank spill, which was mixed with clean soil. The tow truck company, however, denied the allegations and said that they were acting under the instructions of the HGV insurer. But enough about the technicalities of how it occurred. Back to the cleanup. So we had established quite a significant stockpile of contaminated soil. Our options at this stage was either to dispose of the soil or do the on-site rehabilitation. However, we had limitations with regard to the on-site remediation. We have to have space to do this, and it can be quite a lengthy process, taking a few months or if not years. As this was a truck stop, they needed to utilize every inch of their land, and the truck stop was unable to give us any property for us to do our own remediation, and there was no other options locally. As a result of us being unable to do the on-site remediation, we had to look at disposal options. The contaminated soil was safely disposed of at a HazChem landfill facility. Due to the amount of soil impacted, we did have to appoint an environmentalist to conduct soil samples to ensure that we had excavated all the contamination, and once the job was completed, there was no further contamination on site. The landowner negotiated with us that they would prefer to do their own site reinstatement, backfilling and compacting, as they had specific requirements that they wanted to fulfill. Thus, we gave them a full and final cash settlement, and they were able to conclude the job as per their own terms. In overview, this could have been quite a simple incident that could have been attended to if the correct insurers and response were informed as the claim occurred. However, that didn't follow in this instance, and it shows that the simple steps that are taken incorrectly have got a huge impact on the cost and magnitude of a claim. Our second incident involves a side tank rupture on the N3 heading towards Johannesburg. The incident was as a result of an impact to the side tank, and the full capacity of the tank was lost. The product channeled into a stormwater drain which leads directly into a nearby river. The first responders' immediate job was to contain the spillage by booming off any drains and also following the flow path of the drains to ensure that we map the contamination to avoid any unknown spread. As we were aware that this incident was close to a river, we immediately dispatched the environmentalist, who was tasked with mapping the flow of the product and sampling the river. N3TC and the Environmental Affairs Department were extremely involved and concerned. This was one of the few side tank incidents where we actually received a directive from the department. As the spill was so close to the river, they needed to ensure that it was successfully contained and there was no long-term impacts. The scope of the cleanup included cleaning the road surface, flushing the lines to remove any trace of hydrocarbons, and then ongoing monitoring of the river to ensure that it was not impacted. Absorbents were used on free-phase products and booms to contain any further migration. Our environmentalists recently returned to site to conduct a site visit to ensure that there was no hydrocarbon impact remaining on site. The report and lab results will be sent through to the Department of Environmental Affairs for their perusal and then further site closure application. These claims highlight that you can't underestimate the impact that a side tank claim can have on the environment, and also the cost of these claims, running into the hundreds of thousands. If the client does not have the adequate insurance in place, these costs will fall over onto the transporter themselves, who in turn will be looking at their broker to say, "Why didn't you offer me the correct cover?"
Thank you for joining us. Please read the articles, answer the few questions to obtain your CBD points, and please look out for our next webinars, which will be following shortly. You're welcome to contact us if you have any questions or queries.